Okie doke. I thought I'd just put together a little video to show you how I did our automatic colour coding that we used during our challenge spreadsheet. So as you'll remember, as soon as you click on, well, we started out with reds, but if we click on any of the no's and turn them into being a yes, then it automatically not only changes that complete column, so the cell that we've clicked yes on, it actually changes that adjacent cell as well, and it changes it to the same colour. So what I'm going to do is just show you how we can go about doing that. I've got a little bit of a demonstration one that I've done next to it, so I'll just create this again just from scratch so that we can see. I'm going to do it a little bit different this time. I'm going to do it using numbers, which does make it slightly different in terms of rules, but it just shows you that we can work both with numbers and with text. So the first thing that I did was I wanted to have this drop down list. So I wanted to restrict the text or the options that people could choose. Now that is particularly helpful when you're doing something with conditional formatting. So this example is being done using Google Sheets, the same as our challenge spreadsheet was, but the same sort of technique, the basic principles apply in Excel as well. So what you need to do is first of all go up to that data option. If you look at where my little hand's gone on the mouse, I've gone up to the data option, and what we want to select, if you just bear with me 2 seconds, I'll just move myself a little bit further down here so that we can see. When I click on data and I bring up that list, you go down to this one here that says data validation. So as it sounds, it's fairly self-explanatory. It basically says what data do we want to validate to be allowed into that cell. So there's lots of different ways you can set your criteria for that cell. You can define your list somewhere else in your spreadsheet, and so you could then pick that list from a range of different cells. But what I did, because it was just a small number, was I said list of items. So if we select list of items, and then you can enter your items here, as it says, separated by a comma. So if I put in 1, 2, 3 to give us 3 different options, it will then show them in a drop-down list in the cell. So that's why we've got that ticked. I've also left it saying show a warning if it's invalid. You could actually change that to say reject something. If somebody put in the number 4, it should basically say that's not allowed. So we hit save, and what that means is in this cell now you'll see the little arrow pops up, and that means we've now got the options that I typed in. So in that case it was 1, 2 and 3. And you'll see that if I select one of the numbers, that brings that option up. What you'll also find is I shouldn't be able to enter, there we go, there was a problem, the data you entered in that cell, violates the rules. So you can go back and you can change it to one of the valid things. So that was the first step that I did. The next thing I looked at then was formatting for that cell. So if we go up to the top and we choose format, so if we click on format, again I'm going to have to move myself out the way. Let's just stick me over there just now. If I click on here and I select format, because I want you to be able to see the menus popping up, we can scroll down on those options. There's all sorts of things, the usual sort of bold, italics, what format you want. But the important one we're looking at is conditional formatting. So if you click on conditional formatting, over on the right hand side you'll now see there's this panel has popped up, and it says conditional formatting rules. So you can create a number of different rules. So what I did was I created one rule for each of the options that we had previously, so that was yes or no, and I said I wanted it as a single colour. You can use a colour scale, so it will give you, if you're using numbers, you can kind of automatically say, everything less than 10 make it this colour, 10 to 20, the middle make it a different colour, above 30 make it a third colour. but I wanted to be a bit more specific and actually define what we were looking at. So single colour was the option, and then we've got the rules. So click on here and you see a list of different rules and different options that are available to you. Some of these ones down here, greater than or less than, you can only use these if you're looking with numbers. If you are looking at text, then you can be quite specific. So you can say, you know, when I did the numbers, yes, no, I said text is exactly, and then I said the yes or the no that I had from my list. We're using numbers this time, so therefore I can go down and I can choose is equal to. So if the value in the cell is equal to 1, then what I want to do is I want to fill it. So if you click on this, we can choose our fill color, and I'll say fill the cell blue if the contents of the cell is equal to 1. And you can hit done. Then you can add another rule and you can say, scroll down, if it is equal to, let me say 2, and let's say we'll make 2 green. We can hit done. You'll see it hasn't changed colour because the value that we've got selected is 1. I'm going to add a third rule just to show you how we can use sort of mathematics. So greater than. So if it is greater than 2, then I want it to be red, and I'll hit done. So I've now got 3 different conditions. If I change my drop downs from my original list, the cell will now automatically change. So we'd set the rule to say if it was 2, make it green, and if it's greater than 2, which 3 is, we've made it red. So you can use that flexibly depending what you're looking to do. I suppose the bit that makes it a little bit more clever was the fact that we had an extra cell. So what did I'll type in description again. Description field. This was our statement, wasn't it? So what we want to do is click onto that cell and we want to format it. So this time it's a little bit more complicated. So again, back down to conditional formatting, same as we did last time. This time though, we're not interested in, if we click on all of these rules, we don't, you know, it's not that it's empty, it's not that it contains. We want it to be the same colour as the cell next to it. So if you go all the way down to the bottom, there's a custom formula option. So let's say custom formula. And what we're going to say is, what we want to do with this field, equals is always the symbol we use for a formula. So equals, my conditional statement is going to be about F5. So F5, that cell next to it. So F5 equals, and I'm going to say 1. So that was our first option. When F5 equals 1, what I want it to do is make sure that we click that. I think we had 1 equal to blue, and I'll set that. So I'll do the same thing. I'll create a number of rules using that same technique. Custom formula is, so equals F5 equals 2, because we had that as our statement the last time and it was green. And then we had our third one where we basically, we used a formula the last time and we said equals F5 is not equal to a statement or is greater than 2. Remember we had that rule when we stated that, and we said that would be red. And you can see on the spreadsheet it's now automatically turned to red. What I just want to show you is where the conditions are around text. So those were using numbers. Testing for text. So if I have another cell here, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add a little rule. So you'll see that the conditional formatting panel has stayed up because I've already clicked on it, so I can just click straight on to add a rule. If I scroll down, I'm going to go for conditional formula again. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use our column from the previous time. So equals, and let's look at this cell, that would be B7, wasn't it? So equals B7. We wanted to test and say if it equals yes or no. So what you need to do when you're using text is put those little speech marks round about it. And so that means test to see if it equals yes, and if it equals yes. Now, obviously we've been matching them so that we could actually have the same colour changing, but you could actually have a different colour popping up depending what you were looking to do. What we had was, I had a green, didn't I? Dark green. So there we go. I've set it to be the same thing. You can see when I had a dark colour, I actually made my text colour white the last time round. So I did all of that during the conditional formatting, and then that changed it. So you could see you could then add an equivalent that basically said equals B7 equals, and I could make that into no, and I could, whoops, I could turn that into being the sort of darkish red colour, whatever cut, whoops, that's on the text, the darkish red colour that I chose the last time. So if I change that one now to no, there we go, you'll see those conditions have changed. What you can do is take that and drag that down. So similar to Excel, remember if you click on that little bottom right hand corner and you drag that down, what you're doing is you're copying the same conditions into those lower cells. So once you've defined them, although it takes a little bit of time to define them in one cell, what you can then do, if you're doing a whole table and you want the formatting to be the same, you can then drag those rules down and it'll copy the rules, and then I can just click in and say new description if I needed to change those, and we can add those down, and you can see if I type in no. So you don't need to have it as the yes or no from a drop down. You can just type into those cells and it'll automatically recolor them, but the problem you would then have is AN other, you would then get no formatting. You could put in another rule that basically says if it's not equal to those previous statements and get it to change its colour. So that gives you a quick summary through how to go about creating drop-down lists and automatically colour coding not only that cell but the one next to it. It is a very, very similar technique if you're using Excel. You're still looking for setting up your data validation and you're still looking at the formatting side of things. If you want me to do an equivalent mini tut on Excel, let me know and I shall do that as well. Hope that was useful. Cheers now.